at Mertech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on January the 4th in the year of our Lord 2025. And let me say this about that. I tell you what, this weekend, with the New Year's being on Thursday, I think there's been a lot of producers, not me, of course, not Wendy Bell, have been taking some time off. Look, this is ACLJ hasn't posted anything since the 2nd, and and Andrew Clavin since the 3rd, and we know since the 3rd I got something from Anthony Brian Logan and something from Awaken with JP. There's a look. Bongino report hasn't posted anything since the 1st. That was actually the 31st that she dropped late on the 31st. New Year's Eve. The chicks on the right have been just doing reposts of videos. Dr. Steve Turley, he posted something actually yesterday late yesterday that I was able to get on here. But there's a lot of producers that Glenn Beck is true to form. Megan Kelly hasn't done her morning news update since Christmas. No, actually, it was Monday before Christmas was the last one she dropped. And she hasn't dropped any in like 2 weeks. But tomorrow, things are going to be looking good. I did put together some great information for you tonight, so let's just go ahead and jump over here to Mertech on Rumble. This is the live stream, my live stream, episode 1797 that we're going to get into tonight. So let's get into that. Let me pause this, close out the live chat. Okay, let me slide down here and click the show more button to expand out the description box. And again, if you have an opportunity to contact Senator John Thune, the Rhino leader of the Senate, majority leader of the Senate, if you can contact him and ask him, why isn't he pushing through Donald Trump's judge appointments? Why isn't he pushing through trying to get election integrity? He doesn't want election integrity, okay? He doesn't want to end the corruption and the fraud, John Thune. So if he doesn't want to end it, that means does that mean that he's part of it? I don't know. But at any rate, I've got all his information right here, how to get in touch with him. I keep posting this on other videos. If you want to, copy and paste it and put it in a comment on other videos that you watch so people might actually contact that spineless rhino and ask him, why is he trying to destroy this country? Anyway, we have information from Wendy Bell Radio, Anthony Brian Logan, Devory Darkins, and Black Conservative Perspective. But before we get into that, let's jump down here and give a shout out to TCD3813, just started following my channel. Tootsie3264 just started following my channel. AL1945 just started following my channel. Ha2766 just started following my channel. Todd E. Price just started following my channel. And C. Flanders 34 just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I appreciate you doing that. I hope you're tuned in tonight, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Ms. Flintstone 17 reposted my daily news wrap-up from the 4th. Jeanette J66 reposted my daily news wrap-up from the 3rd. And Jeanette J66 commented on my extra 579C. So let me give this a thumbs up. Thank you, folks, for reposting my videos and your comment. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I certainly appreciate your support. Okay, let's come up here and see what Wendy Bell has to say. Let's start off with her Weekends with Wendy. Got some good stuff, actually, so let's take a listen. Let me get this up here past the introduction.
Wendy Bell Radio is live.
There we go.
Hey,
Whatever will we talk about?
I don't know. It's been such a slow weekend news-wise. Oh my goodness. If there was ever a story that was going to replace Nick Shirley and his 7 days of oxygen that he stole from the universe, Nicholas Maduro, Scott Jennings said it. he is the only illegal alien the Democrats don't want coming to America. I almost spit out my wine last night when I read that.
Look, another communist leader in New York City. How about that?
How are you as a Democrat gonna peel your way out of this? How are you gonna now flip-flop after there's so much video out there and so many of you squawking and flapping your lips, as Nick Shirley would say, yapping, right? How many of you on selfie mode have put out stuff about Nicolas Maduro, and now you're like, "Oh, it's all about regime change." Shut up.
Yeah, it's the people who are now you'll see now the liberal talking point
Mm,
is, excuse me,
She's a
trampling the
little fired up this
Constitution,
morning.
and did
what?
government give him
What?
access to do this? And told you this morning. He was more efficient in taking Maduro than the Chick-fil-A drive-through line. That's impressive.
Because the
And
Chick-fil-A
again, they
drive-through
said,
guy has screwed up my order one time.
yeah, and
Trump's
they
got a
did
better
not
record than he does. And then look at the optics. You know what I like about the optics? So, there's an 11 a.m. presser. I know a lot of you guys watched it yesterday, and he was late, but not as late as he's been. He
right,
was there by
11:30,
11. Yeah, he was
40.
there in the hour. And who's standing behind him? Here is a very serious, very handsome, and put together Pete Hegseth. Okay. Let's just say optics. Before you hear a damn thing, there's Marco Rubio, who is just the statesman, and he's a Cuban, and he understands the geopolitical stuff in the hemisphere. And he's been talking to these people, and he's been talking out there to El Salvador, and he's standing behind him. And then Raising Cane, who just comes up and he's like, "We did this, we did this, we did it, we did this, and it was a successful mission, Mr. President," right? And all you do is you sit there and you're like, I fucking voted for that.
Mhm. I I will say that,
She's
someone put, uh,
she's fired
think
up.
about Dominion Records in Venezuela. This has nothing. My brother said something to me yesterday that I
That's
thought
the story.
hit the mark right away. I said, because I said, "This isn't about drugs." And my brother responded with,
Yeah.
"Drugs are just the marketing."
Uh-huh.
He's right. That's how
Uh-huh.
they sold it all.
And think about it. Who can be against the stoppage of drugs flowing into the country? Stop. We want more, says nobody who's not living in another world. And so the Trump has masterminded this strategy to force the left to choose the wrong on everything. It started early on with the LGBT bullshit and all of the trans this and that. And gender affirming care. And we're like, what happened to you? And it's just gotten progressively worse. And so the show tomorrow, yes, and we're super excited. The show tomorrow at noon.
Noon.
Obviously, we're going to dissect all of this. Lots of good sound out there. I've enjoyed watching it. It's been fun to have social media and to scroll through and see what people are saying.
Yeah, and you sit there and you hear the talking heads talk about regime change, and then you click on X, which once again I'm going to say this: uh, he's not listening, but Tesla or Elon Musk needs to start an X news feed. Get these Nick Shirleys, these guys that are on the ground doing reporting.
Nate
Look at all
Friedman.
Nate Friedman. Look at all the people celebrating. There are more there are more things on X, and if you don't have an account, you need to start one. I'll go through of just people in Venezuela,
Yes.
of Venezuelan descent, of the whole region descent, like the South American region, them talking about how great this is. Statues will be built to Donald Trump. He freed the Venezuelan people.
It was a 3-hour war. No, and nobody on our side got killed. Okay.
Uh,
Right.
Once again, more efficient.
So, okay, so we can agree that he piggybacked off of legislation, even that was in when he was president. Joe Biden continued it. They were going after him. The Biden administration put up a $25 million reward. Does Donald Trump get that? He should put that towards his presidential
50,
library.
50 there was a $50 million reward.
Yeah, I think we should just cash it out.
And he said, "Don't give that away. We earned that."
Yeah, yeah. And so, okay, so here's what a dictator does, right? A dictator stands up and says, "We're going to send in our people." And you're like, "Oh shit, boots on the ground." And he's like, "We're going to rebuild the infrastructure. We're going to rebuild drill, baby, drill. And we're going to do that in Venezuela. And we're going to make Venezuela rich again. We're going to get back money and resources that were stolen from us, but we're going to set them up and we're going to create a partnership in our hemisphere based on mutual success." Okay, let's go. Regime change. They want regime. Well, you know what? You guys have been invaded. You've been murdered, kidnapped, ah, stolen elections, and now the stuff that's going to drop about 2020. It just has to. Look, we're not going to undo it. But until every last freaking Democrat who was out there, "You're talking about the big lie. You think Trump won." And I'm like, "You think Joe Biden won? You should check yourself."
Yeah, right.
And all this stuff, Sidney Powell stuff coming up, we're going to have something from her from 2020. We all knew. Everybody freaking knew. Like the time has to be shorter than 5 years next time. We have to get onto something and blow it up in record time. We have to be lethal and kinetic because this 5 year drag out, it's not acceptable.
No, all the drag out of all these things, people need to be in handcuffs. Uh,
Well, this is coming at an intriguing time too, with the media now being so blatant, or as Caroline Love would say, blatant in their bias and in just their lack of trustworthiness. And the numbers and the people moving away from them in droves. The only people who are still watching the news are older white people, right?
yeah. I think people I've seen when people make reference here, it's the oil. You're right. That's national security because guess where China was getting all their oil? So did he stop another war? Because China's going to go after Taiwan,
Taiwan.
and they're going to need oil to do it. Like people can say what they want. This is just about oil and okay, say it. Let's say it is. The fact of the matter is China, Iran, and Russia all were with Venezuela. Trump set the tone. He set the ultimate FAFO and did it when the Chinese delegation was there.
Hmm.
Eh, They might come out and condemnation and say, "Oh, this is wrong in the UN." Most countries did not recognize Maduro as president of
No.
Venezuela. And he basically just put China, Russia, Iran all on notice. Look what I just did, how efficient I was. You can't do that. We can.
And one of the reporters yesterday was asking him, "So who becomes president? Is it the vice president who was Nicolas Maduro's vice president?" And Trump, without even missing a beat, he's like, the Venezuelan people have to decide who it's going to be, right? But we can't let another scam happen. We can't let we have to be a part of the decision to make sure this doesn't happen again. We have to stop with the fucking Dominion voting machines. So this bullcrap doesn't happen again. And it's connected to Venezuela and it's connected to Serbia and it's connected to China. I mean, it's so beyond ridiculous, right? It's so beyond ridiculous and it's all going to come out. And Joe Biden, as I said, it will be the greatest day of my life when I open up Wikipedia and the first words after Joe Biden's name, the first word is disgraced. It's all I want. It's all I want. You're a scumbag. You cheated. You lied. You effed up this country. You invited all of these people in. You sucked us dry. You told us we were racist. You told us we were privileged. We told us we were MAGA extremists. That's what I think. Other than that, I've got nothing.
I don't disagree. I got to a Facebook um, discussion with a family member
An outlaw.
with a step family member, and
Yeah.
the whole regime change, and MAGA is gonna there's gonna come the day where MAGA realizes that their support of this man uh has caused harm at
Yeah.
home and abroad. And I'm like,
Right.
are you watching the Venezuela people
Right.
literally in the streets saying they want to build, tearing down pictures of Maduro and wanting to build statues? Like, get out of your CNN, MSNBC bubble and pay attention.
So tomorrow, Brock and I've kind of talked about how we're going to go through what's going on, what happened, where we are, what people are saying, because I so enjoy paying attention to what the response to stuff is. And there's just going to be one
That's
segment.
the news.
Yeah. Right. So we're going to give you one segment, like a bottom of the hour. So it's like 5 minutes. And you don't have to speak Spanish to understand what they're saying. You don't have to speak Spanish to know libertad. Libertad is, liberty, and, all of this stuff. You're going to hear just the joy and the tears, grown men bursting into tears with their phones on their faces. It's phenomenal. And again, like, you want the great unifier? You want to bring people together? Peace, peace. And with the threat of,
Prosperity.
we'll beat the shit out of you if you get in the way. We will bomb you. We will hunt you. We will find you, and we will kill you. So you have a choice. Join with us or good luck.
I'm curious.
Okay.
I would bet Wendy's money on that there will be a Harry Enton poll today on CNN. And
I've already saved the block for it. Oh, we have to change the template.
but I
Mhm.
will be very interested to how they ask the question. Like, I thought in the press conference yesterday, when, of course, we didn't tell Congress, you people leak.
That's right.
This,
What
no
a
one
shame.
died. No one died. We can't take that risk. I read that he signed this order days ago, that they've just been
The weather
monitoring.
wasn't right.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. I'm 13 minutes, almost 14 minutes into this 1 hour and 2 minute video, and I assure you the rest of this video will be in the daily news wrap up after this podcast. But I'll tell you what, I enjoy watching Wendy. I mean, they're just talking. Okay, they're just talking about things that happen. And, that's how I kind of feel with you people. You chat with me, you give me comments, you let me know what you're thinking, and we're just talking about what's going on. The truth, the real what's going on, not the made up crap on the mainstream media and the Democrats and rhinos just blowing crap out of their mouths. But this is great stuff, and that's why I like sharing it with you. Okay, clicking on the
Find it all.
Rumble link, it shows you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. I'm following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here. Let's scroll back down and see what Anthony Brian Logan has to say about Venezuela. President Maduro captured by U.S. forces in nighttime raid. Let's check this out.
Logan, and today we got to talk about Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife being captured by U.S. forces during an overnight raid in Caracas. Now, this was an operation that had very minimal injuries. I'm not sure if anybody died. There were some strikes in Caracas, but I think there were just minor injuries. Trump came out and said that a couple of guys were injured and a helicopter might have been hit. But aside from that, there were no U.S. casualties. Venezuelans, I don't really know. However, the Venezuelans, from what I'm able to see, they like this move. They're happy about this. Not just Venezuelans in Miami, Florida, and other parts of the USA, but Venezuelans in Caracas, Venezuelans in other parts of the country that's not Caracas. They seem to appreciate what Trump did because let's be clear about who Maduro was. Maduro at one point was a president, but now he's a dictator because from what I'm able to read, he pretty much stole the election. He didn't let the election happen. fair and free. He just took power and ruled by decree. He was a dictator for all intents and purposes. And the reason why we did this, aside from him being a dictator and being a narco trafficker, impacting Americans and Venezuelans and other parts of the world as well, is because he was a big ally of China, Russia, Iran. As a matter of fact, the Chinese delegation was in Caracas right before this whole thing happened. And I think they're still there. Now, clearly they didn't get hit, obviously. It was about Maduro, but the Chinese, the Russians, and Iranians wanted to have them as an ally against us. And of course, there's the oil issue. And what Trump said is that we're going to go in there and run the country until we can get a transition to the appropriate party, which may be the lady Machado. And we're going to send our oil companies in there to fix the infrastructure. Now, some are saying that's why we went there is because of the oil, no other reason. But I think there's a lot more reasons. The oil, the potential for them to be an ally to foreign nations against us. And if they are an ally to those foreign nations will, of course, take control of the oil and use it against us. And you don't want that to happen. If we do nothing, then something will be done, and then we are the ones who suffer. Now, before I go any further, let's get into a few things here. We have some reactions from Venezuelans out there in the country and also USA. Check it out. I think it's safe to say that they like what happened here. Okay, they're cheering in the streets. You see the flags flying. All right, let's go get some more here. This is going to be in Doral, Miami, Florida. And there was a big celebration of Venezuelans out there. Now, this is a longer video, but I'm going to show you a piece of it to give you a gist of what's happening.
Yes. Yeah, come celebrate with us. We love everybody because you, America, has loved us so much. So much. Thank you, America.
Thank you so much for sharing those sentiments. Guys, this is something.
So I think he's pretty happy. I think he likes what Trump did. I oh, that's just one guy. Well, I got a lot of people. And if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, of course, and everywhere else, I've put up videos of others saying the same thing here. This is going to be in Spanish, but you can see the subtitles and I'll translate.
La veo muy emocionada llorando. ¿Cómo se siente? Cuéntanos por qué llora. Felicidad, tantos años esperar esto.
So far, the lady asked her, how's it feel? She's saying, I've waited so many years for this.
Señor, gracias, Señor. Ay, Dios mío, esta es una alegría inmensa. Gracias, Señor. Gracias al presidente de Estados Unidos.
So you heard what she said. She said, gracias, Señor. Thank you, sir. Gracias, Presidente de Estados Unidos. Thank you to the President of the USA, President Trump.
Esperando hace años, cómo he sufrido, cómo no han hecho daño, cómo han matado a mis hermanos. Ay, esto ha sido horrible, mira. ¿Cuántos años tiene usted aquí en los Estados Unidos? ¿Hace cuánto se fue de Venezuela?
Now, she's talking about how this has affected a lot of her family members, her brother, other family members, because I think they said this was the largest, I don't know how you would say it, the largest exodus of people from a country aside from Syria. Like 9 million people had to leave. It was crazy. Okay, and now she's asking her how long she's been in the USA.
Ay, tenemos aquí 8 años ya.
Been there 8 years now.
8 años porque nos mataron al hermano mayor y fue fuerte, hermano. Secuestraron a mis hermanos, eso fue fuerte.
Her brother was killed. Other brothers were kidnapped. It's crazy down there. It is really crazy. Some say that Maduro was a president. Others say he was a dictator. And the country is being held hostage by a dictatorship. And now that Trump came in and got Maduro and his wife out the way, then that paves the way for this regime to come to an end. Unfortunately, there are still some from the regime in Venezuela. But since they were able to get the head of the snake, I think everybody else is going to have to just run away, go to Moscow somewhere, or figure something else out. Okay, now let's keep going here. This is when a Chinese delegation came to Caracas just like a few hours ago. I think yesterday they came, and I think they're still there right now. Now, I'm sure they got the first thing smoking back to Beijing, but yeah, this happened right when they were there.
Verte. Me trae muy buenos recuerdos. Feliz año. El año del caballo, ¿verdad, Salvador? Ah, el caballo. Yo soy tigre. Tú.
So he's like, he's saying Happy New Year. It's the year of the horse. I'm the tiger, all this and that.
Tanto tiempo. Yo lo conocí a él muy joven. Muy joven. Hace 20 años.
Muy joven. I met him when I was very young, 20 years ago. So you see what's going on. A lot of pleasantries and everything happening. I'm going to let it play with no sound on, but that's Chinese delegation. They're talking about Happy New Year. And today is January 3rd, 2026. So again, this is very recently. This is like yesterday or the day before, where the Chinese delegation went to Venezuela to try and get them on their team. Because remember, if the USA does not do anything here and they just leave Venezuela be and we don't do what we did, then the Chinese are going to be there trying to butter him up. The Russians, the Iranians, they want the Venezuelans to be on their side. So they're able to get the natural resources and an ally against the USA to make us weaker. And of course, if they have them as an ally, the drugs that Venezuelans were dumping on us would continue the same way that the Chinese are able to send the precursors, the ingredients to fentanyl, which is really killing us right now in the USA. 100,000 deaths in 1 year from fentanyl overdoses. Now, this is Trump talking about how Maduro and his wife were taking aboard the USS Iwo Jima and they're headed to New York right now.
Us where Maduro and his wife are right this second?
Well, they'll be heading to New York. They were indicted in New York, and also.
So are they taken to a ship first, and then?
Yes, the Iwo Jima. They're on a ship, but they'll be heading into New York. The helicopters took them out, and they went by helicopter in a nice flight. I'm sure they loved it. But they've killed a lot of people. Remember that they killed a lot of people, and
a lot of Americans.
Even people in their own country. They killed a lot of people to maintain power. He's a very vicious person.
Can you tell us?
All right, there we go. So this is, again, Maduro aboard the USS Iwo Jima. And you see the picture right here. We got DEA happening. We got him blindfolded with a bottle of water. And I'm sure they gave him this little tracksuit to put on because when they got him, he might have been tighty-whities in the bed, sleep, whatever. Okay, put this on, put this blindfold on, these headphones on. Now we're going to take you to New York. All right. And that's where he was indicted because he was indicted here for the drug trafficking and guns and stuff like that. So that's the pretext. Okay, you're indicted for the drug running and everything else. We're going to take you back here to the USA where we're going to try you. And hopefully, I presume we're going to convict you. Okay.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. And let me remind you that this video does come from Anthony Brian Logan. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. If you want to see more of this, like 10 minutes into this 13-minute video. If you want to see the last 3 minutes, the link is in the description box. Okay, let's jump back here and see what Devory Darkins has to say. Democrats crash out after Trump makes Maduro's nightmare come true. Okay, let's get his take on this.
Not necessarily the mechanics of it all, but it really comes down to three things. One, the president, I think, made it clear in that statement that they're really after the oil. Two, the people of Venezuela, they finally have an opportunity to turn this country around. And three, from a globalist standpoint, I suppose, Russia and China, they've suffered a major blow here because now the United States of America will be in charge of the oil coming out of Venezuela. And just so you guys are clear, the country with the most oil reserves is Venezuela. So I think you guys are going to have to chew on all that if you're trying to decide, was this the right move from the president or not? Well, we already know how MSDNC feels about all of this, so let's get to it. Here's what they had to say.
Give us your initial thoughts on the action that took place in the early morning hours in Caracas today.
Good morning, Jonathan. Look, I'm angry on behalf of Americans, on behalf of Congress, and most importantly, on behalf of our service members who were put in harm's way. And this was not necessary. This was not legal. And we saw this coming. This has been the plan the entire time. It was never about narco drug trafficking. This was about oil. This was about minerals. This was about regime change. There is no legal justification for what has happened. I'm outraged that nobody in Congress was briefed, including our leader, Hakeem Jeffries, that the committees of jurisdiction received no briefing. And this is dangerous, not just because of what this will mean for Venezuela in the region. It matters for our moral standing in the world. What does this mean for Taiwan, that we believe that we can go in and do regime change, that we can arrest a leader and kidnap them essentially and drag them to the United States? What does that mean for Ukraine?
This is what makes politics lose its credibility. Okay. A member of Congress trying to compare Ukraine and Taiwan to what's happening in Venezuela is someone who clearly refuses to tell the truth or is really that ignorant. Okay. I think the bottom line here is if you want to criticize the president because you don't believe this decision lives up to America First principles, or you don't believe this is the right move, then debate the merits of the case.
Okay, I'm going to pause that here for just 1 second and give you a reminder of what happened when Barack Obama was president and Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. When they, well, let's just listen to this.
I mean, that is the land of unconfirmed. Yes, we came, we saw, he died. Did it have anything to do with your visit? No, I'm sure it did.
Okay, there you have it. There you have it, folks. So, CBS News. Yeah, it's such a funny thing when Barack Obama goes into another country and kills the leader of that country, Gaddafi. But when Donald Trump goes and captures someone, oh my goodness, our lives will be over. Amazing. Okay,
don't be lazy by trying to compare this to Ukraine and Russia and Iran but based on what exactly? I just gave it to you guys. I mean, anybody with common sense can see this for what it is. It is a regime change. We are after the oil. We are looking to push back on China and Russia, okay? And the people of Venezuela, they love this. They were hoping something like this would happen, okay? Now, optics-wise, if you're America First, one thing you might want to think about is how quickly this took place. What, it only took a few hours to do what, in most cases, based on history, would take us 10, 20 years to do, and the blood of our men and women in armed forces, the president got it done in 4 hours. I think that's phenomenal.
This matters not just in this instance, but what it means globally. And this is not what Americans want. They voted for this president in part because he said he was not interested in more foreign wars. And this runs completely counter to what he ran on. And I'm angry. You can hear it in my voice, I'm sure.
Now, I want to play that clip for you overall because it represents exactly what you're going to hear from mainstream media, particularly people who lean left and Democrats. That one, the president never got authorization to do this. Two, he's trying to erase Congress and their ability to approve something like this. Three, he's flying off the handle once again. Four, he just declared war on Venezuela. And five, we're angry, we're scared, and what does this mean for Ukraine? I mean, that I guess are the talking points, and it's funny because it just lacks common sense overall. We're only, maybe 12 hours removed from this. Can we wait a little bit? Can we see what happens here? Okay, can we stop the overreactions and just clearly observe and then assess? I don't know. Maybe that's for people who clearly are level-headed, of course. But at any rate, I wanted to go through some of these clips just to show you what the Secretary of War had to say, and then Marco Rubio. Let's start with Pete Hegseth first. Take a look.
Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around, and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026.
Okay, so now we go to Twitter because we know at this point, essentially, Democrats have backed themselves in a position where they're now defending a dictator. That's essentially what they are doing. But let's go to the actual facts of the case. I don't know who needs to hear this, but Congress never approved Obama's Libya strikes, and it never approved Biden strikes in Syria, Iraq, Yemen, or Somalia.
There you go, folks. Just what I was showing you a few moments ago.
This is from Jillian Anderson. You guys can go fact check this yourself. We did as well. And the fact remains, because of Article 2, the president can authorize airstrikes whenever he wants, essentially, okay? And they can authorize a military operation to go in and get somebody. Now, Democrats will call that kidnapping. I would call that a strategic, smart, decisive decision from the president. Okay, let's go to what Mayor Brandon Johnson had to say. They wrote this long post, and I say they because, he didn't really write this. He says that the Trump administration's military action in Venezuela violates international law and dangerously escalates the possibility of full-scale war. Whoa. Wow. Illegal actions by the Trump administration have nothing to do with defending the Venezuelan people. They're solely about oil and power. And I could keep showing you because the statements are all the same, okay? Now, let's go to Marco Rubio really quick, and then we'll circle back on this.
Other than the following points, Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
we should make sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world that like to play games, you have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States.
Unlike the previous administration, right, that would say one thing and do the total opposite, which is why Scott Jennings found this screenshot from Joe Biden back in 2021, where he said, Trump talks tough on Venezuela, but admires thugs and dictators like Nicolas Maduro. As president, I will stand with Venezuelan people and for democracy. Interesting how nothing ever panned out with the Biden administration, right? They weren't able to really accomplish much when it comes to foreign policy. If anything, all they did is lead 13 service members to their death because of incompetence with their withdrawal from Afghanistan. And obviously, other of our adversaries getting a little bit more bolder when Joe Biden was in the White House for obvious reasons. And that's why I think this next clip is fitting, because a retired general, and that's why this next clip is fitting, because a retired admiral went on to CNN this morning and essentially told them, hey, listen, publicly people will condemn this, okay, especially our adversaries, but privately, they're going to be looking at this military action and thinking twice about the United States of America and how effective we are at getting what we want, when we want, where we want, and on whoever we want, essentially. Listen to this.
Tell me how this news is being received in Iran. How's it being received in Russia? How's it being received in China?
all three predictably will deplore this kind of activity publicly. Privately, they will be impressed with the military capability here. I would argue none of those three militaries could have executed an operation like this. And again, we tend to just breeze by this. But the idea of finding, fixing, kidnapping, taking him out alive with his wife, no casualties on the side of the U.S., that's an extraordinary military operation. So I think while there will be a lot of public condemnation of the United States, predictably from those three nations, privately they'll be saying to themselves, that's a very capable military. That's not a bad thought to pop up in Beijing, Moscow, and Tehran these days.
Now, as I started this video off with, if you're going to criticize the Trump administration, you should criticize them for just lying to the American people about what this is. That would be a more legitimate debate to have right now online. Okay. But to sit there and say that, hey, I'm going to condemn the president of the United States for removing a true dictator, by the way, someone who did steal an election, someone who ruined the economy. They're at triple digit inflation, by the way, created a country based on communism. Yeah. Removing someone like that from power. I mean, think about the mental gymnastics Democrats are going to have to do moving forward. They've already started doing it. And to prove my point, let's go back in history. Last year, this is what Democrats were saying about Maduro.
Just look at what's going on in Venezuela. Maduro, who is what Donald Trump wants to be. He wants to be the kind of guy that it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, you get to stay in power. Doesn't matter if you win or lose. And Maduro is staying in power by blowing up the rule of law in Venezuela and co-opting the military for his political purposes. That's what...
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here. There's like 7 minutes left in this video. I want to move on to Black Conservative Perspective. But this video does come from Devory Darkins. The link to this video is in the description box if you'd want to watch the rest of this, by all means. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back over here and see what Black Conservative Perspective has to say. We're going to get off of Maduro for a minute and go back to Tim Walz. And Whistleblower sounds alarm on Tim Walz implementing new fraud scheme as he loses millions in funding. Amazing. Let's check it out.
Insurance program for you that allows you again to take care of what you need to take care of without being forced to choose between your family, your bonding with your child, your own health, and your economic well-being. Because in Minnesota, you can do both, and we proved that.
Minnesota just gave illegal aliens 20 weeks of taxpayer-funded paid leave. And they'll say, no, it's not for illegal aliens. It's only for citizens. Yeah, well, Minnesota doesn't exactly have the best track record when it comes to preventing fraud right now, but look at the requirement. All that is required is you had to have earned about $3,900 in the previous year and paid in with your payroll taxes. You don't have to prove your citizenship. You don't have to show a social security number. No, you just have to have made $3,900 in the previous year. The program will be funded by a new tax increase, so enjoy that. But they'll get up to 12 weeks for medical conditions, up to 12 weeks for family bonding. Together, the maximum is about 20 weeks per year. If you thought the daycare fraud was bad, wait till you learn that you're paying for 20 weeks of illegal aliens to sit at home and do nothing.
Oh, Victor, stop with the propaganda. Paid family leave is a good thing, and it's also available in at least 13 states already. And what's good about this is that it's almost available to everyone. All you have to do is make $3,900 in the year. Now, do you get like an excess amount of money for taking time off? No, you get a fraction of your pay. So if you only make $4,000 in the year, you're not getting like $4,000 a week. You're getting a fraction of that each week. It also ensures that your employer cannot fire you for taking time off.
Boy. So we got to talk about how it seems like the walls are closing in on Minnesota Governor Tim Sugar Walz, who is currently facing a whole lot of backlash across the country for allowing a massive amount of fraud. We're talking about billions of dollars in fraud to happen within a state, mainly one city, Minneapolis, Minnesota, involving a very specific community, the Somali community. And now anything, all of the programs that Minnesota has administrated, has been in charge of, they have now come under scrutiny, under question, because of the fact that it seems like every program that's being run out of that state is subject to fraud. And now you have whistleblowers coming out, sounding the alarm on a new fraud scheme that is being implemented by Democrats in that state in the form of paid leave, which on paper sounds great. It sounds like a great idea, right? Everybody pitch in, aka pay extra taxes, right? In order to pay for people to take an extended amount of time off to get paid to spend with their child or taking care of a loved one or, whatever, right? Sounds like a great idea. Sounds amazing. Just like subsidizing childcare sounds amazing, right? Except you can't trust a Democrat to implement any program like this without it being abused, which is exactly what whistleblowers are warning about. They're saying, hey, this program could be abused by fraudsters, scammers, illegal immigrants, and that's why this is the problem. Take a look.
Whistleblowers in state government are saying that people are planning to scam it. Under the new law, almost every resident is eligible to take up to 20 weeks of paid leave a year to take care of family or for medical reasons, with taxpayers footing the bill and paying out a percentage of a person's salary up to $1,420 a week. The program is projected to cost between $1 and $1.5 billion a year, but Republican lawmakers say that could go up dramatically thanks to how vaguely the law is written, making it ripe for fraud.
One thing that people don't know, you can designate one person annually as the person you care for. So I can designate my uncle living in Florida, go on vacation, and it's up to your employer to investigate whether you're really caring for that person or not. Like that's just, there's no guardrails. It's going to be ridden with fraud, just like we see in our other systems. The honor system is not the best way to distribute all this money.
Despite the growing scandal around the alleged fraud already taking place, Governor Tim Walz is dismissing those concerns from Republican lawmakers.
His Department of Employment and Economic Development saying that assertions about the likelihood of fraud in the new law are not based in fact. Here's a statement they put out. Paid leave has launched with strong systems in place to verify identities and work histories and to detect and prevent fraud. We accept tips about potential fraud from all sources and we investigate all reports. What do you say to that?
Well, every program we've talked about, the PPP program, the food fraud program, the Medicaid programs, they've all said, the child care program, they've all said, oh, these have strong safeguards and there's all these systems in place to prevent fraud, but the systems only work if they're used. The systems only work if the bureaucrats and the people running the program do the due diligence. And that just hasn't been the case, whether it was the food fraud, the child care fraud, and apparently the SBA's PPP program. If the bureaucrats won't turn the crank and visit the sites or do whatever they need to do to verify these claims, then the money just goes out the door. Systems don't solve the problem.
You know, Bill, I was reading a few days ago about a former Minnesota state auditor that said that he had previously recommended to Governor Walz that they literally put some of these checks in place, eligibility checks and other things, and yet they didn't do that. Now, Governor Walz is running for a third term. Why wasn't any of this done to have accountability in his previous terms?
Well, an excellent question. An excellent question. There seems to be a real bias in the Walz administration and in Minnesota state government in general to get the money out the door first, ask questions later. The idea is people are in need. There is a real need in the community, and we need to get the money out and not create or exacerbate the problems by not providing the resources. But the problem is fraudsters take advantage of that high level of trust and that the honor system that we have in state government. And there also have been, going back to that previous auditor and his reports, accusations of racism, that state government has been harder on people in certain communities and scrutinizing people from certain communities to the exclusion of others. And
Yeah. So you can already imagine how this paid leave program is going to be taken advantage of by a lot of fraudsters and scammers. Okay, they'll basically say, "Oh, my cousin is sick. I need to go paid leave," right? And they'll be able to just leave. They won't be fired. They'll get paid, and they'll probably be taking some vacation somewhere, right? Probably going to Somalia, getting paid, right? On a vacation, claiming that my cousin's sick. He's dying. I got to take care of him, right? And people will be abusing the system like they always do. And see, this is the problem with these universal programs. This is the problem with allowing Democrats to run anything, is that all of their ideas sound great on paper, right? To an idiot, right? To a clown, to a naive person, to somebody who doesn't understand how the world works, right? Who doesn't understand the practicality of all this stuff, right? Again, it sounds great to provide all these goodies, right? And free stuff. But the free stuff is never free. These people aren't getting paid leave. They're basically paying taxes to be able to go on leave, right? That's what they're actually doing. Okay, they're paying taxes to be able to go on leave. And this program, just like all of the programs, will be ripe with waste, fraud, and abuse. And then they'll turn around and say, hey, we have to raise your taxes even more in order to pay for it, because it turns out it was more costly than we thought. So we got to raise your taxes even more. And that's what people got to understand about these socialists. No amount of your money will ever be enough, right? Will ever be enough for them. They will never be satisfied. They will always want to take more. They're going to nickel and dime you for more and more and more, and then tell you that you're a bad person if you don't want to support their fraudulent programs, right? So with that being said, okay, another fraudulent program we got to talk about, some of these PPP loans, right? A lot of these borrowers from Minnesota, they're having their funds suspended, right? Thousands of these loans are being suspended due to the rampant waste, fraud, and abuse that has been discovered in Minnesota.
A check of your top stories this morning. A new update in Minnesota's fraud crisis.
The Trump administration is taking action against thousands of Minnesota borrowers who may have taken out fraudulent loans during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Small Business Administration says it's suspending nearly 7,000 Minnesota borrowers over the suspected fraud. Those borrowers were approved for around $400 million in COVID-era loans. The administration says it will ban fraudulent borrowers from all loan programs going forward. They could also face federal prosecution and repayment. Right now, Minnesota's childcare system is in the national spotlight.
But months ago, the federal government told state officials they needed to make serious improvement. The state was told the lack of oversight could increase risk of fraud, waste, and abuse. Our Frankie McLister joins us live now from the state capitol, digging into these new details, years in the making. Frankie?
Yeah, hi there, guys. Happy Friday to you. In May, the Federal Office of the Inspector General released an audit. And I'll tell you what that audit said. It said that the state didn't comply with certain requirements when it came to child care assistant payments. Now, that audit was included 200 randomly selected payments from 2023, where the agency found in 38 instances, Minnesota didn't comply with the requirements related to attendance and payment for services. Now, the same audit said that the state was making at least one error in 11% of payments made to more than 1,000 centers that year in 2023. That's something the commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services spoke to about a year ago.
Agencies do have as broad authority as possible to investigate fraud and act on all aspects of fraud. I don't know that that is fully present.
Now, state and federal investigators are looking into each of the child care centers that were featured in YouTuber Nick Shirley's videos, where CBS News found that all of those daycare centers, except for 2, were licensed. Guys?
A lot to still dig into as well, but thank you, Frankie.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean legit, right? It doesn't mean legit at all. So, yeah, Tim Walz, again, is facing lots of calls to resign, right? People are saying, hey, this guy got to go. I think at the very least for Tim Walz, this probably is the end of his career, right? He's trying to run again for governor. Who knows? Maybe he might run for president. I don't know at this point. I think he belongs in prison, to be honest with you. But at the same time, I'm not getting your hopes up. saying that, he is going to go to prison because we know it's hard to throw a Democrat in jail, right? It's very hard. The legal system will go out of their way to make sure that Democrats are never held accountable. So who knows, right? But I think at the very least, his political career is on life support due to this.
Follow fraud, as the federal government says it's freezing funding for child care programs for all 50 states tonight. Now, estimates vary, but the move could impact anywhere between 19 and 30,000 Minnesota families that rely on those funds to help pay for their child care. Some Republican lawmakers say the state should hire an independent inspector general to investigate concerns and enforce state and federal child care regulations.
When there's a flag from a whistleblower, from an audit, etc., they look into it. And I think that will take it from years to hopefully months before something's done when we have problems.
But local DFL lawmakers say the move goes too far.
It really is, in my view, cruel and reckless to completely turn off funding to childcare for thousands of Minnesota families.
The impact of the move is still unclear tonight, but the director of Early Childhood Services at Families First of Minnesota says the organization is closely monitoring the situation. And Attorney General Keith Ellison says his office is exploring legal options to get that funding restored. And that increased attention into Minnesota's fraud has also led some state GOP leaders to call for Governor Tim Walz to resign. ABC 6 News reporter Chandler Jackson spoke with some of our local lawmakers on both sides of the aisle tonight about this latest push. Chandler, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Rachel. Well, after discussing this latest federal move to address Minnesota's fraud problem, we spoke with Representative Dwayne Quam and Senator Liz Bolden, who you just heard from, about Governor Walz's role in this issue. The GOP side tells me Walz is one of the sources of this fraud and where the most effective change can occur. But for the DFL, they feel these moves are purely political.
In a joint statement on Monday, multiple Republican state lawmakers called for Governor Tim Walz to resign. They pointed to the various accusations of fraud from the federal government over the last few weeks as proof Walz failed in his duty to oversee his administration and the programs at the heart of the alleged fraud. It's a sentiment some local legislators agree with.
The appointments to the leadership in government come from the top. And if year after year and new people get appointed, etc., things aren't getting better, that means you need to change the top so you get somebody in there that actually can fix, improve, and get rid of the problems.
But those on the other...
See, here's the issue. You're about to listen to why this is an issue, right? But I'm going to tell you why this is an issue, is that this has been a Democrat Party problem for a long time, for over a decade, right? With Democrats leading the state, okay? When the last governor was in office, this was a problem, right? This is a story. This is an issue that's been going on for over a decade. We're talking about going back to 2015, 2014. I mean, even before that. But nothing was ever done about it despite a change in leadership because Democrats were still in leadership. And Democrats are in on the scam. They're getting campaign kickbacks, getting campaign donations, and they're looking the other way. This is why nothing is being done about it, right? In regards to the state doing more to shut it down, right? It's the federal government. The federal government is now stepping up and going after these fraudsters and doing what the state should have been doing. But again, the reason why you're not seeing anything from the state, the reason why this is allowed to happen is because it's a part of the Democrat Party business model, right? And they're not going to destroy their own business model.
Other side of the aisle aren't convinced by these arguments.
I think what we are seeing from the behavior of the Minnesota GOP right now is, they're collaborating with right-wing provocateurs. They're withholding, potential fraud tips. All of that seems purely political to me.
While an actual recall petition to pull Walz out of office hasn't been suggested, even by those calling for his resignation, the end of the governor's second term is just around the corner, and he'll have to face off against one of a number of Republican candidates gunning for his job.
I'm looking to see, because a lot of people are running, how are they consistent? How are they messaging? And are they talking from their heart or from a script?
I'm very grateful that Tim Walz has been our governor and provided leadership over these last years. We have been through incredibly difficult situations, and I am very, very grateful for his leadership.
Though Walz has not directly responded to those calls for his resignation, a spokesperson for the governor said he has, quote, worked for years to crack down on fraud, including several recent actions such as shutting down the Housing Stabilization Services program, ordering a third-party audit of high-risk programs, and hiring a statewide program integrity director. Live in the newsroom, Chandler Jackson.
Yeah, he's trying to get reelected. But see, here's the issue, right? Here's the issue. In the ideal world, right, in a sane world with sane Democrat liberal voters, Tim Walz's career will be over because of the fact that he allowed this to happen on his watch, right? He should not be able to win re-election, okay? However, something tells me that liberal voters don't care. The Democrat Party voters don't care because their propagandists are already coming out here and saying, oh, Nick Shirley lied. He lied about the Somali fraud, right? This is what they're saying. They're already running cover, right? The mainstream liberal media is running cover. They're already building in their arguments, right? The propaganda, the brainwashing to liberal audiences in order to make them feel good about voting for Tim Walz, right? A guy who allowed a record amount of fraud to happen in his state under his watch, right? So, you know, in the ideal world, this guy's career would be over. However, because we're not living in an ideal world anymore, right? We're living in a country where apparently liberal voters don't care about Democrats wasting their money, right? Who knows? I honestly don't know, but I'm hoping and I'm praying that it's over for Tim Walz, right? If this does not end Tim Walz's career, if Democrat voters, if liberal voters say, you know what, I'm going to vote for this guy, right? Despite him wasting all these tax dollars, allowing all these fraud, there's just nothing that you can do, right? To help a liberal, right? There's just nothing that you can do. I mean, these are the same people that voted for Jay Jones, right? The same guy, the Attorney General of Virginia right now, who fantasized in text messages about killing Republicans, right? Killing his political opponents and their children. And they say, yeah, that guy, he should be the top cop in the state of Virginia, right? This is what Democrats said because they hate Trump. So who knows at this point, right? I'm just saying that a lot of this stuff, you know, this should be the end of Tim Walz's career. He should step down, okay? But because of how radicalized Democrat voters have become, who knows, right? These people may go out and support the guy anyways, despite all this, despite the fact that he's wasting their money. They don't care because, hey, they want to stick it to Trump. They want to stick it to MAGA. And that's how brainwashed these people are, right? That's the sad truth about our current state of politics. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.
All right, folks, there you have it. And, you know, the amazing thing is he's right. He's right. You know, they don't care about Democrats wasting taxpayer dollars because, well, probably the majority of them don't work anyway. They're just living off the government. You know, as long as they got a guy in there like Tim Walz that'll keep handing out money from us, our hard-earned tax dollars, that's fine. That's fine. They'll just keep it coming. Got to tax those rich people, make them pay their fair share, even though 3% of the population is paying 90% of the tax revenue. They got to pay more. All right, as you can see, this video does come from Black Conservative Perspective. I am following his channel. I'm giving him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, jumping back here, folks, remind you that these videos that I've shared with you tonight are videos that come directly from the producers. I have the links to their videos and links to their channel right here in the description box. I don't get any commissions or royalties for doing this, and I'm not taking anything away from these channels or these producers. I'm sharing this information out along with the links to the videos and their platforms. And these videos that I've shared with you tonight are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com. Right here's the video from Devory Darkins. Up here is right here is the video from Black Conservative Perspective. Down here is a video from Wendy Bell. And up here I showed you before is a video from Anthony Brian Logan. Okay, this I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. This is your one-stop shop for information that you're not going to get from the mainstream media. And the link to this is in the description box as well. I'd like to share all of it with you, but unfortunately I just don't have the time to do so. And that's why I've put together my daily news wrap-up. Let me show you this. I've got some good information here talking about Venezuela and Representative Nancy Mace's congressional action wasn't needed to go into Venezuela. Something from Rubio. Something from Rick Scott. And we've got a little Victor reacts. Democrats side with communist dictator. Then we're going to get into the Wendy Bell video. Some salty cracker. And I've got the Black Conservative Perspective video in there, but I played all of that. If you want to see the rest of it, you can check out the description box. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. But as it is, I'm going to need some time here to get my daily news wrap-up set up in Rumble Studio. So let's go ahead and take a break. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut, or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, or if you like, I had a suggestion last night of a nice glass of wine and some cheese. That sounds like a great deal to me as well. So go ahead and take your break, and I'll meet you back here about 9:30, about 25 minutes, and we'll get your daily news wrap-up going. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.